Don't bother chasing likes and followers if you're just starting your illustration career. You're fighting an uphill battle that's going to be frustrating and disappointing. Social media is an absolute swamp, and it's harder than ever to make an impact on there as an illustrator. Instead, I'm going to explore a few more options of how new illustrators can use their time most effectively. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for sharing creative work. That is something every commercial illustrator has to get used to doing. If you don't share it, you're never going to get hired. But social media can be a real waste of time for a new illustrator. The vast majority of illustrators aren't getting their early professional jobs through social media. I say professional jobs because it is quite possible you can find some paid work through social media as a beginner, but it's not likely to be the work you really want. Can you illustrate a portrait of me and my friends on a drunken night out? Can you paint a portrait of my lovely dog? This isn't commercial work, and it's not work you should show in your portfolio if you want to be a professional illustrator. And while I understand that when you're starting out, any paid work seems appealing, low-quality clients like this won't pay you what you're worth, and the time you spend on these kinds of low-quality projects means you'll have less time to chase after good clients that will pay you better money, hopefully, and good projects that you'll be able to show in your portfolio. In my book, I outline the two most essential tasks for a new illustrator. Make a portfolio of work that's good enough to get you hired, and show that work to the people who can hire you. Posting that work on social media is not showing it to the people who could hire you. It's posting it online in a place clients won't know to look. You post it, and you hope someone will see it. Why not take hope out of the equation and send that work directly to clients with real budgets? You don't need a social media following to get hired as an illustrator. What you need is great work in an interesting style. If you don't have that style or a selection of your best work gathered together on a portfolio website, or hell, even in a PDF, that should be your highest priority. Maybe it takes a couple of months, maybe it takes a couple of years, but the shorter you make this first step, the quicker you'll be able to get paid to be an illustrator. So anything else that distracts you from it is slowing you down. I've spoken about the importance of feedback elsewhere on the channel, and I genuinely believe that you can't make your best work without outside input. So you might be thinking, isn't sharing on social media a good way to get feedback? Well, I'm not sure about that. Particularly in the early days when your following is small, most of that group will be made up of friends, family, or acquaintances, so you'll be getting skewed results from people who want to support and encourage you rather than give you objective feedback. It's also not likely to include any experienced industry professionals, the people whose opinions count the most for constructive feedback. It's easy to look through your social media posts and see that one image that got 125 likes and the others that are averaging around 40 and think, well, that one must be better than the others, so I'll do more work like that. That's how I thought about it until recently. But now I think it's more likely that it's just luck. The social media algorithm, for whatever reason, could have simply exposed that image to more people, which again skews the results in an unhelpful way. On top of all that, is a like really feedback? Sure, it's an expression of a gut reaction to an image someone looks at for a few seconds, but how valuable is that? If those users were to leave a comment and tell you exactly what they liked about the image, then you've got useful data, but it doesn't happen all that often. So I think we need to reframe how we use social media as illustrators. It's not likely to be a source of good work in the early days. It's distracting you from your main goal, and your success or lack of success on a social media platform is largely out of your hands when you're untested in the industry. This whole rant isn't necessarily to say that you shouldn't post your work on social media. If you want to do it, but take a step back from it and think about it as a visual diary of the work you're producing to make your portfolio. If you're hoping to be discovered or get thousands of followers in a short time, you'll probably be disappointed. A low follower count could potentially work against you if you show that Instagram profile to a client. It shouldn't matter if the work is good, but let's be honest, if you see an illustrator with 300 followers compared with another who has 30,000 followers, you'll trust and believe that the artist with the larger following is better. That's a very real bias that we all experience. It's hardly a fair comparison of quality though. So if you do post on social media, don't actively share it with clients until you've built up a decent following. I'm far from immune to the lure of checking social media stats. It's designed to be addictive. Recently, I've redoubled my efforts to be more consistent on YouTube and Instagram, and I can't help looking to see what's performing well and what isn't. It's massively destructive. I spent the last year being ultra productive, avoiding distractions and being really strict with my time. And as a result, I wrote a book and I did some form of exercise every day for 400 days straight. I ran my first 10K and I read about 50 books. And now I've gone the opposite way, checking my phone 8, 9, 10 times a day to look at social media stats, YouTube views, book sales, none of which I have any control over. I'm disappointed with myself, frankly. What I found to be really helpful over the last year was the Freedom app. It blocks certain apps and time-sucking websites for defined periods of time. For example, it blocks Instagram for me at 7 p.m. every evening and disables it for the whole of the weekend. It's extreme, but I really needed to get serious about achieving those goals, and my willpower sucks, so I needed an extreme solution. This would probably be a ridiculous time for me to ask you to subscribe to the channel, so if you do, I definitely won't check the stats. Let's imagine you're right at the beginning. You've got a style you're developing and you spend the next year or two making loads of new illustrations of different subjects that will appeal to different kinds of clients. And you spend time each week finding new clients to contact and send them your work directly. At first, asking for feedback and later on asking if they've got any work for you. Of course, there's going to be disappointment and frustration along that path too, but you are taking control over your future, not hoping someone will find your work. You're putting it right in front of them. In this scenario, let's imagine you're not posting on social media at all. At the end of that period of time, your work will have improved 1,000,000,000% because you've been consistent and dedicated with a single-minded focus. You've sought out feedback from industry professionals and you'll have got some paid work from real clients. And then, and only then, after establishing yourself as a professional illustrator, you start posting on social media. You'll have a big archive of well-developed work to choose from, which takes the pressure off finding stuff to post. Some of that work will be for real clients, and there'll be some really interesting things to share. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier for you to get followers and fans when you're sharing great work for cool clients. You're not fighting that uphill battle then. People will see your work and wonder why they've never heard of you. You'll come out of nowhere and blow people away with what you've achieved. That's the kind of illustrator worth following. Right at the start, when you've got no clients, not much work, and your style is undeveloped, there's not much for people to follow, so why would they bother? But if you start sharing work when you're already established, it's going to be so much easier. On a similar theme, I see a lot of new illustrators selling prints on their website. For some, they love making prints and they like going to print fairs and they're really interested in doing that as part of their business. That's great. For others, it's an attempt to diversify their income streams when they're not getting any client work, which I can totally understand. It feels like a logical way to earn a bit on the side, but if you're struggling to find clients to pay you to make illustrations, you'll probably struggle to sell prints of your work too. It can take a lot of time and effort to set up a shop, do the printing, and go to those fairs. So I want to ask you, is that just another distraction from the main goal of finding commercial clients? Maybe it is and maybe it isn't, but it's worth thinking about. If you're spending time and money on that, where is that time coming from? Probably the essentials of developing your portfolio and showing it to clients. If you were to put this off until later, when you're established and your work is the best it can be and you've got real fans, and then you open a shop, you'll be able to sell prints with very little effort. So I've shared a lot of thoughts here, maybe a rather extreme way of thinking about social media for a freelancer, but maybe an extreme solution is exactly what's needed to get extraordinary results. See you next time.